Hello children, and this week I'm going to be showing you some drawing techniques that you can use in your sketches and your artwork that use just pencils, and you can also use pens as well. So I'm going to show you 5 different techniques you can use here, and I'm just going to use these normal pencils, but they are sketching pencils. And they're the B pencils. So when you get pencils, you get HBs, your normal one that you write with, and then these different numbers, numbered B pencils are really good for sketching like this. So I'm going to use 4B, 5B and 6B, which are really nice and soft, and they're really great for drawing with. And then I'm also going to use just some normal black pens. So all you'll need to practice out these techniques is just some normal paper. Any pencils are fine, but if you have B ones, that's great. And any kind of black pens if you want to try with pens as well. But really, just to get started, a pencil and some paper is perfect. Now, I drew around something circular, so you can draw around some circles if you want to try it like this, or you can just have a go at freehand on the paper as well. But what I'm trying to do here is show you how you can get some different effects in to turn something that is 2D into something that looks 3D. So these are all circles that I want to look a bit more like spheres or 3D shapes. So I'm going to show you the first technique, which I've already added some on here, and this is just very simple shading. So for this circle here, I've added some shading in using a soft pencil. And all you do is you hold it on the side so you can shade really nicely in, and you don't press really hard, you press quite softly, and then you get a really nice effect. And what you're trying to do here is shade in different gradients. So on the edges of the circle you need the darkest parts. So all around this bottom part I'm going to have the darkest parts of the shading, and then it will get lighter. So slightly lighter still as it gets towards this centre part. And this will give it some form and help it to look like a 3D shape. Shading's a really nice one for all kinds of things. It's really nice if you're doing your self-portraits, so you can add some definition in your face. It's really nice for anything you want to look 3D as well. So I'm going all a bit dark around the sides, and if you make any little mistakes like that, you can just rub them out. Also, if you are shading and you decide you want the light to be hitting this in one place and you have just accidentally done it too dark, you can take a rubber and you can just rub out wherever you want this lightest part to be. And you can blend it a little bit. You can use your finger, or you can just use, there are actually little blending sticks you can use, but you don't really need one. You can even use a little tissue and you can just blend it together with a little tissue. So that's a nice way of creating some 3D effect, and a really nice way of making this look a little bit more realistic. So that's shading, number 1, and I used that dark 6B pencil for that. Now this next technique is great as well for adding in some shadow, and this is called hatching. And hatching is really just lines. So you do all your lines in one direction, they don't cross over. And the closer together the lines are, the darker it will look. So where you want this to be darker, you just do the lines very close together, and where you want it to be a little bit less dark, you do them a little bit further apart. So you can add in your shadow using just this simple technique of hatching, and you can create something that looks quite 3D, and it's a nice effect. It's a nice way of drawing. So like I said, you can have a go at doing these in a circle shape like this, or you can just have a go at doing them just freehand on a page. Just practice these techniques. Now that's hatching. Cross hatching is where the lines cross over, and this is something that actually looks really nice in pictures. So just like hatching, when the lines are further apart it's not quite as dark, but you can get a bit more detail with the cross hatching. So you can make your shapes look a little bit more finished, I would say. The cross hatching has a really, really nice effect. So you do the lines in one direction like this. If I want it a bit lighter, I just do them further apart, and then I get closer as I want it a bit darker. And then you can cross over here. So you're crossing the lines. So the cross hatching is simple, like hatching, but the lines cross, and it doesn't really matter if they cross 2 or 3 times as well. So you can create this kind of look. And down here I want it really dark, so I'm going to add quite a few lines like that. And I'll add a few more, just like this. So that is a slightly different way of getting the same kind of look, so you can see the difference between the shading and the cross hatching. Now, I'm going to show you the pens. So this one is called Stippling. Now I'm going to show you stippling in pens. I've already done a little bit because it actually takes a really long time to do stippling, but the effect is really nice. So if you want to try this, it's good. Now the same rule applies to stippling as it does to cross hatching and hatching. If you want it to be darker, you do all the little dots that I'm going to show you now closer together. And if you want it to be a lighter shade, you do them further apart. So round the edges of this circle, I want it to be darker. So stippling is really just a simple way of adding in your tones and your shades, but using little dots. Now it's simple, but it takes a long time. So like with hatching, hatching's quite quick, cross hatching's quite quick too, and shading can be quite fast, but this one takes a really long time. So I'm going to space out the dots a bit more here so you can see the difference. And anywhere where you want it a bit darker, you just do many more dots. And it looks fantastic when it's finished, but you need a bit of time to try this one out. But it has a very different kind of quality, I feel, to these ones, especially when I'm using this pen. I think drawing in pen is really, really nice. It's quite effective. So it's a nice thing to try out instead of using pencil, but of course you can't rub it out. So pen is a bit trickier in case you make a mistake, or you could always try drawing your pictures in pencil first and then adding in pen. So I'm going to do some really spaced out dots here, and a few more really close together here, and you can see the difference between the quality here. So that one is called Stippling. So we've done shading so far, which we all do, we've done at school and we know quite well. Hatching, you may well have tried at school as well, which is the lines in one direction. Cross hatching, where the lines cross over. Stippling, where you draw your little dots. And then this final one is just quite fun, scribbling, but it's very quick, this one, but it has a very nice effect, and you can get the same quality of shadow with scribbling as you can with the others. So I've already scribbled in some of this circle, and same rule again applies. Wherever you want it to be darker, you just do more of the scribbles, and then you space out the scribbles wherever you want it lighter. So I'm going to add in some really close together scribbles here at the top to get a nice dark area, and then I'm going to make them much bigger. So I'm just going to show you that part there. Probably will leave this actually because there's quite a lot of scribbling on here. You can actually combine pencil and pen, looks really good together in the same picture too. Do slightly more close together scribbles down here to create this shadow. And then even though it looks like you're just scribbling like this, when you create this pattern or this line making technique in a form, like a circle in this case, then it can look very, very effective. Okay, those are your 5 techniques. The final thing I will show you is, obviously we were trying to make these look 3D. So the final thing you would need, if you really wanted it to look like a 3D form, is you would need the shadow. So it would be a cast shadow, so you could do it in the same technique. So for instance, if this was a sphere or a ball of some kind, it would cast a shadow on whatever surface it was on. So I can add a shadow in, and I will do this in the same technique of shading. And it should be a bit lighter than your actual object. So it should look a bit more like a shadow. And then you can even darken up these sides so that the difference between the shadow and the object is a bit more obvious. So that's a shadow going that way. Of course, shadows go in different directions depending on where the light's coming from. So these are just some techniques you can try, and you can use these in your drawings and see how they work out. I hope you enjoy experimenting with pencil and pen techniques, and I'll see you next week. Bye.